I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
I was just waiting for a friend.
Please step outside right now.
By the time the manager pointed toward the front door, the restaurant had gone unnaturally quiet. The elderly black man standing near the entrance didn't argue. He didn't complain. He simply rested both hands on the polished handle of his cane and looked around the room as though searching for one friendly face. He found plenty of eyes. Not one voice. "I'm not asking for anything free," he said, calm enough that people had to lean in to hear him. "I came because I heard this place served a good meal." The manager gave a dismissive smile. "I'm sure there are places better suited for you." A few customers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others lowered their heads, pretending to study menus they had already finished reading. Marcus Ellison had faced enemy fire, buried brothers in arms, and endured losses that never truly healed. Yet somehow, standing in a crowded restaurant while strangers silently watched him being judged by his appearance felt like one of the loneliest moments of his life. None of them, not the manager, not the customers, not even the security guards slowly approaching, had the slightest idea who the old man really was. Neither did the restaurant owner, who was about to walk through the front door and recognize the face that had haunted him for nearly 20 years. Before we continue, make sure you stay until the end because every story has a moment where everything changes. If you enjoy powerful stories filled with unexpected twists, emotional lessons, and hidden truths, subscribe and join us for more. Now, let's go back to the beginning and uncover what really happened. 6 months earlier, Marcus Ellison had returned to the town he once thought he would never see again. Retirement had given him something military life never had. Time. Time to slow down. Time to breathe. Time to come home. At 72, every step demanded a little more effort than it used to. The old injury in his right hip reminded him whenever the weather changed, and his left knee complained whenever he stood too long. The cane wasn't something he enjoyed carrying, but he had long since stopped letting pride make simple things difficult. His apartment sat above a small hardware store on a quiet street lined with maple trees. It wasn't fancy, but every morning sunlight spilled across the kitchen table just after 7, and that had become his favorite part of the day. He'd brew a pot of coffee, open the windows, and listen to the neighborhood wake up. Children waited for the school bus across the street. Dog walkers exchanged friendly greetings. The owner of the flower shop always swept the sidewalk before unlocking the front door. After spending years living wherever the army, and later civilian work, required, those ordinary routines felt like a luxury. Most people in town knew Marcus only as the polite older gentleman who volunteered twice a week at the local Veterans Resource Center. They saw him helping younger veterans fill out benefit applications, translating confusing government paperwork into plain English, or quietly sitting beside someone who simply needed another veteran willing to listen. Very few people ever learned that Marcus had spent more than 3 decades wearing the uniform of the United States Army. That wasn't because he hid it. He just never saw a reason to lead with it. The medals remained tucked inside a cedar box beneath his bed, wrapped carefully in the same cloth Evelyn had folded around them years before. His late wife used to tease him every Veterans Day. "If I didn't tell people," she'd say with a grin, "they'd think you spent your whole life fixing lawnmowers." Marcus would laugh. "That's because I'd rather they know me than my resume." He still caught himself smiling whenever that memory surfaced. 8 years had passed since cancer took Evelyn, but some habits never left him. He still reached for 2 coffee mugs before realizing he only needed one. He still caught himself turning toward the passenger seat whenever something interesting happened on the road. And every Sunday morning, without thinking, he still bought a small bouquet of fresh flowers before remembering there was no one waiting at home to arrange them in a vase. Grief had changed Marcus. It had made him quieter, gentler, more patient with people carrying burdens he couldn't see. If life had taught him anything, it was that appearances rarely revealed the whole story. Someone smiling could be falling apart. Someone dressed well might be lonely. Someone wearing old clothes might have lived a life extraordinary enough to fill several books. That afternoon, after unpacking the last cardboard box in his apartment, Marcus decided he owed himself a small celebration. Nothing extravagant. Just a good meal somewhere he had never tried before. Earlier that week, his next-door neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, couldn't stop talking about a restaurant downtown. "You'll love it," she'd insisted while watering her plants. "Family-owned. Wonderful food. And everyone says the owner treats people like old friends." The recommendation stayed with him. As evening settled over the town, Marcus polished his shoes out of habit, brushed a few wrinkles from his old brown jacket, tucked his wallet safely inside the inner pocket, and placed his faded army cap under one arm before leaving home. The walk took longer than he expected, but he didn't mind. Storefront lights reflected across the sidewalks. The smell of fresh bread drifted from a nearby bakery. A young father lifted his little daughter onto his shoulders while she pointed excitedly at the first stars beginning to appear overhead. Marcus smiled to himself. Life, he thought, wasn't measured by the extraordinary moments. Most days happiness looked exactly like this. When he finally reached the restaurant, warm light spilled through its front windows onto the sidewalk. Laughter floated outside each time the entrance door opened, and the aroma of grilled steak, fresh herbs, and homemade rolls instantly reminded him of dinners Evelyn used to cook on special occasions. He paused for just a second, not because he was uncertain, because moments like these deserved to be appreciated. He straightened his jacket, adjusted his grip on the cane, and stepped inside with nothing more ambitious on his mind than enjoying a quiet dinner before heading home. The hostess had barely looked up from her reservation book when someone across the dining room noticed the elderly man in the worn jacket. The floor manager's smile disappeared. Without asking a single question, he started walking straight toward Marcus. The floor manager reached Marcus before the hostess had a chance to greet him. His smile, polished moments earlier for arriving guests, vanished completely. "Sir," he said, lowering his voice just enough to sound polite while still making sure nearby tables could hear, "I'm going to ask you to leave." Marcus blinked once. "I'm sorry? I don't think this is the right place for you." Marcus glanced around the dining room before looking back at him. "I was hoping to have supper. So was everyone else in here." The manager forced a laugh that nobody joined. "We're very busy tonight. I don't mind waiting. That's not the issue." Marcus studied the younger man for a moment. After a lifetime of reading faces, from frightened young soldiers to grieving military families, he recognized judgment the instant he saw it. He also recognized when explaining yourself wouldn't change someone's mind. Still, he tried. "I recently moved back into town," Marcus said with a friendly smile. "A neighbor recommended this place. She said the food was worth the walk." "I'm sure she did." The manager's expression remained unchanged. "But tonight we're fully booked." Marcus looked towards several empty tables near the windows. "I'm in no hurry." The manager followed his gaze before quickly stepping sideways, blocking the view as though the empty seats had suddenly disappeared. "They're reserved." Marcus nodded politely. "I understand." He reached inside his jacket. The manager stiffened immediately. "What are you doing?" "My wallet." Marcus pulled out a neatly folded leather wallet, its edges worn smooth after decades of use. "I wanted to show you I can pay." A few nearby customers exchanged uncomfortable glances. The manager didn't even look at the wallet. "That won't be necessary. I assure you, I've already made my decision." The words came sharper this time. Marcus slowly lowered the wallet. He had spent enough years around authority to know when someone had confused confidence with power. "I'm not asking for special treatment," he said quietly. "I'd simply like a meal." The manager took one step closer. "And I'm telling you this conversation is over." The nearest waitress shifted nervously. She had watched Marcus from the moment he entered. He had removed his cap before crossing the dining room. He had smiled at everyone who made eye contact. Nothing about him suggested trouble. "Mr. Collins," she said carefully. "Maybe we could seat him in my section?" The manager didn't even turn toward her. "Go check table 12. She hesitated. "I said now." Her shoulders dropped as she walked away. Marcus noticed. He gave her a small reassuring smile before she disappeared into the kitchen. There was no point letting someone else become part of this. The manager unclipped the radio from his belt. "Front entrance." His voice remained calm. "I need security." Marcus exhaled slowly. Not from fear. From disappointment. He had imagined ending the evening with a warm meal and perhaps a slice of pie. Instead, he found himself standing in front of strangers who seemed far more interested in what he looked like than who he was. Two security officers approached. Unlike the manager, they didn't rush. One of them, an older guard with gray around his temples, offered Marcus an apologetic look. "I'm sorry, sir." Marcus nodded. "I know." The guard lowered his voice. "If you come with us, we can avoid making this any more uncomfortable." Marcus gave a faint smile. "I've lived long enough to know that dignity isn't something another person can take from you." The guard looked down for a moment. Before either man could move, the restaurant's front door opened again. Someone had just walked in. And within seconds, everything inside the restaurant was about to change. Ethan Reynolds barely noticed the cool evening air as he stepped through the entrance. His mind was still on contracts, suppliers, and the meeting that had kept him away from the restaurant longer than planned. Normally, the dining room buzzed with conversation the moment he arrived. Tonight felt different. Too still. Servers weren't moving. Customers weren't eating. Nearly everyone seemed focused on the same corner of the room. Ethan frowned. What happened? Before anyone answered, he noticed the elderly man standing beside two security guards. Marcus wasn't arguing. He wasn't defending himself. He simply waited. His army cap rested neatly against his side while both hands folded naturally over the handle of his cane. Something about him made Ethan stop walking. Not because he recognized him. Because his face stirred a memory that refused to stay buried. The floor manager hurried over. "Good timing, sir. I'm handling a situation." "What situation?" "This gentleman has been refusing to leave." Ethan barely heard the explanation. His attention remained fixed on Marcus. There was something familiar about the old man's eyes. Not the color. The expression. Calm. Patient. Almost comforting. As though Ethan had seen that same look during one of the worst days of his life. Marcus noticed him watching. Their eyes met for only a second. Then Marcus looked away, clearly more interested in avoiding further embarrassment than defending himself. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. A strange pressure settled behind his eyes. Fragments of memory drifted through his mind without warning. The sharp smell of antiseptic. White hospital ceilings sliding overhead. Machines beeping somewhere nearby. Someone speaking softly. A face leaning into view. Then everything disappeared again. He took another careful look at Marcus. No, it couldn't be. Could it? Without another word, Ethan turned and walked quickly toward the hallway leading to his office. The floor manager looked completely confused. Customers whispered among themselves. Even the security guards exchanged puzzled glances. Inside his office, Ethan knelt beside a locked cabinet he hadn't opened in years. From the bottom shelf, he removed a small storage drive inside a protective case. Across the front, written in faded black marker, were two simple words. Never forget. His pulse quickened as he connected it to his computer. Dozens of folders appeared. Medical records. Newspaper clippings. Letters from doctors. Thank you notes. Then he found the folder he had revisited every year since surviving the accident. Hospital security video. The footage loaded. A hospital corridor filled the screen. Doctors hurried past. Nurses pushed equipment from room to room. Then a familiar figure entered the frame. The image was younger. The hair darker. The shoulders broader. But there was no mistaking those eyes. Ethan leaned so close to the monitor that his chair rolled backward. His breath caught. The elderly man waiting to be escorted out of his restaurant was the same stranger who had quietly walked into a hospital nearly 20 years earlier and walked out again after saving a man's life without ever asking for thanks. For a long moment Ethan couldn't move. The office suddenly felt too small. The only sound was the faint hum of his computer as the old surveillance footage continued to play. Nearly 19 years had passed since the accident, yet the memories returned with startling clarity. Rain had been pouring that night. A drunk driver had crossed the center line, sending Ethan's pickup into a concrete barrier. By the time paramedics reached him, he had lost so much blood that doctors warned his parents to prepare for the worst. His blood type was one of the rarest in the country. The hospital had exhausted its emergency supply. Staff members began making urgent calls to neighboring counties while nurses searched desperately for anyone who might be a match. According to the medical report still saved on Ethan's computer, hope arrived from the most unexpected place. A man visiting another patient overheard the conversation. When he learned his blood type matched, he volunteered immediately. No questions. No hesitation. No conditions. The video showed Marcus sitting comfortably in a donation chair, chatting with a nurse who looked far more nervous than he did. Even after giving enough blood to help stabilize a complete stranger, Marcus wore the same calm expression he carried now. The footage skipped ahead. A physician hurried after him near the hospital entrance. "Sir, please wait." Marcus turned politely. "The patient's family would like to meet you." He smiled the way people smile when they aren't looking for recognition. "I'm glad he's going to be all right. They want to thank you." Marcus adjusted the sleeve of his old army jacket. "I didn't do it for thanks." The doctor reached into his pocket. "At least let us cover your expenses." Marcus shook his head. "Use it for someone who needs it more." Then he walked out of the hospital without giving his name. That was the last anyone had seen of him. For years, Ethan searched for the stranger who had given him a second chance at life. He contacted former nurses. He spoke with retired doctors. He hired investigators. Every search ended the same way. No name. No address. No answers. Now the man he had spent nearly 2 decades trying to find was standing at the front of his restaurant, being escorted outside as though he didn't belong. A painful knot tightened in Ethan's chest. He pushed away from his desk so quickly the chair rolled backward into the wall. Without bothering to close the video, he hurried toward the dining room. As he reached the hallway, he called out with a voice loud enough to stop everyone in the restaurant. "Please don't let him leave." Every head turned toward Ethan. The urgency in his voice caught everyone off guard. The security guards immediately stepped aside. Marcus looked puzzled as Ethan crossed the dining room faster than anyone had ever seen him move. When he finally reached the elderly veteran, he stopped only inches away. For several seconds, neither man spoke. Ethan searched Marcus's face, almost as if he feared the memory might disappear if he looked away. Then, without caring who was watching, he wrapped his arms around him. Marcus stiffened in surprise before gently returning the embrace. "I'm sorry," Ethan whispered, struggling to steady his voice. "I'm so sorry." Marcus eased back slightly. "I believe we've never met." "We have." Ethan gave a faint, emotional laugh. "You just didn't know it." Customers leaned forward. Even the kitchen staff had gathered near the swinging doors. The restaurant had become completely still. 19 years ago, Ethan explained, he was rushed into emergency surgery after a devastating accident. Doctors believed he wouldn't survive the night unless they found someone with his extremely rare blood type. That person turned out to be a stranger. A stranger who refused payment. A stranger who disappeared before anyone could even ask his name. Ethan looked directly at Marcus. "That stranger was you." A quiet murmur spread through the dining room. Some customers exchanged stunned looks. Others simply stared at Marcus with new eyes. Ethan continued, "If you hadn't walked into that hospital when you did, I wouldn't be standing here." He glanced around the restaurant. "This business wouldn't exist. The people who work here wouldn't have their jobs. My wife would have become a widow before our children were old enough to remember me. He paused, swallowing hard. You gave me years I never should have had. Turning toward the guests, Ethan spoke with unmistakable conviction. The man some of you just watched being judged because of old clothes and a walking cane is the reason I got to watch my children grow up. The weight of those words settled over the room. Several customers quietly wiped away tears. Near the hostess stand, the young waitress lowered her head, remembering how helpless she had felt only minutes earlier. Ethan faced the floor manager. I trusted you to welcome people. His voice remained calm, but every word carried disappointment. Instead, you decided someone's worth before learning a single thing about them. The manager opened his mouth to defend himself. Ethan gently raised one hand. There have been complaints before today. I should have listened sooner. He took a slow breath. Your employment ends today. No one celebrated. No one applauded. The silence itself felt like judgment. As the former manager quietly walked toward the exit, Ethan turned back to Marcus. I can never repay what you gave me. Marcus smiled softly. I wasn't expecting you to. Ethan pulled out a chair at the center of the dining room. Then at least allow me to serve the man who gave my family 19 more years together. One customer stood. Then another. Within moments, the entire restaurant rose to its feet. The applause wasn't loud at first. It grew naturally, spreading from table to table until every person in the room was honoring the quiet veteran they had almost overlooked. Marcus waited until the applause faded before speaking. His voice was gentle enough that everyone instinctively leaned closer. Kindness doesn't stop to ask who's deserving, he said. It simply arrives when another person needs it. No one spoke after that. They didn't have to. The lesson had already reached every heart in the room. The applause eventually faded, but the atmosphere inside the restaurant never returned to what it had been. Meals that had grown cold no longer seemed important. People lingered at their tables, quietly replaying what they had witnessed. Some parents leaned closer to their children, using the moment to teach a lesson no classroom ever could. Others walked over to Marcus, not to ask for photographs or stories, but simply to shake his hand and thank him for a kindness they had only just learned about. Ethan insisted on preparing Marcus's dinner himself. When the meal arrived, he didn't place it in front of a forgotten customer. He placed it before the guest of honor. Before anyone left that evening, Ethan made one final announcement. Beginning that day, every veteran who walked through those doors would be welcomed with a complimentary meal on the house. More importantly, every employee would receive new customer service training built around one simple principle. No one would ever again be judged before being known. The dining room answered with quiet applause, not for the announcement itself, but for the promise behind it. Marcus smiled, though recognition had never been what he wanted. After finishing dinner, he slowly rose from his chair, thanked every server who had waited on him, and paused beside the young waitress who had tried to speak up earlier. You have a kind heart, he told her. Don't lose the courage to use it. She nodded, fighting back tears. Outside, the evening air felt cool against Marcus's face. He adjusted his old army cap, rested both hands on his cane, and started the slow walk home beneath the glow of the streetlights. He left exactly as he had lived, without asking for praise, without expecting recognition, and without believing he had done anything extraordinary. But everyone who remained inside the restaurant understood something Marcus never needed to say. Sometimes the greatest heroes don't wear uniforms anymore. Sometimes they simply walk quietly among us, hoping to be treated with the same dignity they have spent a lifetime showing everyone else. If Marcus's story meant something to you, don't let it end here. Tell us in the comments. Have you ever witnessed someone being judged before anyone took the time to know who they really were? Your story could remind someone else why compassion matters. If you enjoy powerful stories about courage, justice, second chances, and the quiet heroes who often go unnoticed, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And if today's story left you with one lesson, let it be this. The greatest act of kindness isn't always saving someone's life. Sometimes it's choosing to see the person standing in front of you before deciding who they are.